Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. My name's Kaz, and today I'm going to be talking about a relationship trope, and that is palantines to valentines, or more specifically, friends to lovers. So of course I wanted to talk about this video on this particular day because thematically it works so perfectly, but this video is also in celebration of the release of the film Emma, which is an adaptation of Jane Austen's novel. So a huge thank you to Universal for not only sending me a copy of the book, but also some passes to go and see the movie. So I will be going to see it in the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited about it, and I will report back to you all on what I think of it. Emma follows a young woman named Emma Woodhouse who is obsessed with matchmaking. So we follow Emma as she attempts to align certain parties and encourage romances between them to some devastating effects. And it does have the friends to lovers trope in here as well. So very, very fitting. But let's talk about the trope in particular, why I like it, and then also talk about a couple of books that I really love that have this trope in it as well. It is so hot and humid right now, I could not bear the feeling of my hair sticking to me any longer, but let's talk about the trope. Do you guys like the friends to lovers trope? Me, I do like friends to lovers. It is a trope that I do enjoy. I haven't come across it a whole lot, to be quite honest, but I feel like part of that is probably because I don't read a whole lot of romance. I myself have gone hunting for some recommendations and looking a lot of the videos online. Most of the books that people recommend are within the romance genres. So I think I'm definitely going to have to expand my horizons and try going into some stories where it's really heavily focused on the romance. But from the books that I have read, it is something I enjoy. I really like seeing those close bonds between a friend. You know they're already close, they've got a bit of a history, and then you gradually see things shift, or maybe one person things take a little longer than the other. But I like seeing those dynamics change and seeing a different kind of relationship blossom from their existing one. I just really like that there's a relationship developing on a really strong foundation anyway. Obviously it can't be really boring or anything, and I have to be invested in the characters and want to see them together. It can't just be like, oh, this is so easy, they fall together perfectly and there's no tension. There's still got to be some tension. But it's just really heartwarming to see these characters coming together and falling in love with each other when they already care about each other really deeply. I will say though that unless it's done really well and the two friend characters individually but also together are written really well, when we come into an instance where there's three people involved, we've got like the main character, and then there's the best friend, and then the brand new love interest, I lean more towards the straight to lovers kind of dynamic versus friends to lovers. And I think one of the reasons for this, and it's not like this happens in every instance, this is just one of the reasons why I might prefer the new love interest rather than the best friend, is because sometimes it can bring out some ugly behaviors in the best friend when they get really jealous, or it's not until the main character is starting to fall for someone else that they're like, oh no, but I've loved you this whole time. And now that you're starting to develop feelings for someone else, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works and declare my love for you, and then really confuse the main character. So when we're faced with that kind of scenario, I'm more likely to lean towards the new love interest rather than the best friend, because they can do some ugly ththings. I'm looking at you, Mal. So other than that scenario, when it kind of brings out some of the ugly side of that best friend, I generally really love seeing the friends to lovers trope. And I'm going to talk about a few books that have this trope. I will start off by saying though that, like I mentioned, I don't read a whole lot of romance. So the books that I'm going to be mentioning are ones that kind of more heavily focus on the plot, the action. In a few cases, it's more of the fantastical setting as well. And the romance is a subplot rather than a romance novel where you kind of go in knowing that there is going to be this friend to lover dynamic. It's more focused on that romance. So I just want to mention this in case you're concerned or you find these sorts of pieces of information to be spoilery for a book where the romance is a subplot. So I'm only going to go into a little bit of detail about these romances, keeping it as vague as possible. But if you are concerned about any spoilers, I will have a list of the books in the description below with timestamps, so you can skip over any of the books where you don't want to hear any little details about the romances. But at least that way you can still see what books have them present and pick it up if you're interested. The first two books I'm going to be talking about are going to be ones where the main character and the best friend, are already in that existing friend relationship at the start of the novel, and then I will talk about a couple of books where the two characters meet they become best friends, and then eventually the feelings get involved. First of all, we have The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This follows Monty as he embarks on a grand tour through Europe. This is kind of his last hurrah to really have a fun time before he kind of has to buckle down and get serious about fulfilling his role as heir to his family's estate. Joining him on this tour is his best friend Percy and his younger sister Felicity, and things kind of go a little bit wrong. There's a bit of a manhunt, they're on the run, but all the while, Monty is kind of hoping to pursue his crush on his best friend Percy. This was a rollicking read. It was such a fun time. I listened to the audiobook of this one. The narrator really captures Monty's voice so well, so I'd definitely recommend listening to the audio if you have the means. Really loved the friendship between Monty and Percy, but knowing that there were some feelings underlying there and then seeing it develop and grow. Monty is definitely a very charming and flirtatious guy. He's also bisexual. Percy's a little bit more down to earth, calm and collected, and really keeps Monty in line. We also have some diverse representation with him. He's a person of colour and also suffers from epilepsy, I believe. But I really like the fact that through Percy, Monty kind of becomes more of himself. He is super outgoing, he is super friendly, flirtatious as I mentioned, but he does have a lot of insecurities and questions himself and his decisions a lot, and some of that does have to do with Percy and his feelings for Percy. But I really love the two of them together and they really do care deeply for each other, so it's just wonderful, so wonderful to see these two characters. We also have Winter by Marissa Meyer. This is the fourth and final book in the Lunar Chronicles, so I'm not going to really go into much detail about this one, but this is a series of kind of sci-fi reimaginings of various fairy tales. Book 1, Cinderella. Book 2, Scarlet, Little Red Riding Hood. Book 3, Cress and Rapunzel, and then Winter, Snow White. This book doesn't solely focus on Winter, however. We do follow all of the characters that we meet along the way, but Winter we do meet in a previous book, but she's now a prominent character in this final book. She is the stepdaughter of Queen Lavanna, and Jason is her childhood friend and one of the palace guards. In this instance, again, I really like what the characters bring out in each other, obviously having been best friends for a really long time, relying on each other for kind of stability in everything that these characters have been through, but time and time again, these characters continue to show how deeply they care for each other, and especially Jason as well. He just kind of goes above and beyond to prove his loyalty and his love for Winter. And with Jason as well, especially in his case, we do see a little bit more of a contrast between how he behaves in front of other people and then seeing a much more soft, tender and sweet side when he's with Winter, which again really shows how much he cares for her. I just really love the fact that they'd had such a long and strong history together, and through everything all they want to do is protect the ones that they love, and seeing them together was just so sweet. And now the last two books I'm going to be talking about are ones that, like I mentioned, they meet on page, develop a friendship, become best friends, and then later on down the track becomes something more. Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Elire Sainz. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Also great on audiobook. Lin-Manuel Miranda narrates it if you're interested. Would recommend. So this is a coming-of-age contemporary novel about two boys, Ari and Dante, who feel like outsiders in their lives, and it really is about their friendship and the impacts that they have on each other's lives. I adored this novel. So beautiful, and I really enjoyed seeing these two characters come into each other's lives and develop a really strong friendship. I loved seeing each of their development and seeing how each of them brought out the best in each other, and then eventually we have a blossoming male-male relationship. So beautiful. Lastly, we have Nevernight, the series by Jay Kristoff. I'm going to do a little bit more of a heavy spoiler warning on this one just because the relationship I'm going to be talking about doesn't develop until book 2, and it's a very complex relationship. There's a lot of factors that go into it that do have to do with events that happened in the first book, Nevernight. So if you haven't read up to God's Grave, just be forewarned that this might be mildly spoilery. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about any particular plot points that happen. This is just about the relationship, but it's up to you whether or not you want to continue. So the relationship I'm talking about is between Mia and Ash. The two of them meet in Nevernight. They both join the Red Church, this cult-like school for assassins. The main character is Mia, and her reasoning for joining the Red Church is that when she was younger, her father was hanged for treason, and she wants to become an assassin so that she can kill all of the men that were responsible for her father's death. And while she's there, she meets Ashlyn. The two of them hit off straight away. They become best friends. I loved seeing the friendship between the two of them. Like, I really enjoyed it. The banter, the sass, it was everything I could have hoped for and more. It's definitely a very divisive relationship because of their history. You know what? This is really difficult to navigate, trying to be completely spoiler free, so I will put a spoiler warning. Y'all have better read Nevernight, right? So after what happened to Trick, what Ash did to Trick at the end of Nevernight, I can completely understand why a lot of people just can't get on board with the relationship between Mia and Ash, and like, I totally get it. I just made sure I got over that fact, and I kept the memory of Trick very fond in my mind, and I decided in my fantasies that I would be the one who ended up with Trick, so therefore I was happy, so Mia and Ash can be happy together as well. But thinking about just Mia and Ash, I honestly do think the two characters work really well together. They were super compatible as friends, and I also think they were super compatible as partners. So after I got over that emotional hurdle, I was on board with the relationship. So that's the tea. That's what I think. I totally understand if you don't agree. Like, I completely get it, because this series is an emotional ride. So that's my stance on Nevernight. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Those are my thoughts on the Friends to Lovers trope. And of course, because I really like this trope, I'm always looking for more recommendations. So if you have any books that have this trope present, please let me know down below, whether or not it's kind of more in the vein of this, where it's focused on plot, subplot as the Friends to Lovers. Here for that, but also would really like to try some romance books where it is solely focused on that friends to lovers dynamic. I would friends to love that. So that is all that I have for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, thank you Universal for sending me the book and the pass. Cannot wait to go and watch the movie. If you guys have seen it yet, did you love it? Let me know. I'll see you very soon in a new video, but until then, I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye!